Yeah.
Sorry, for example, closing down was Jimmy. Closing off, okay.
I believe that the existence of the cam girls that made them as a legal sector of work, that legal sector of work in the marketing field has been a deteriorating and as well as insulting presence when it comes to define feminist movement as well as moral attitude. So we believe that the feminist movement, we believe that the parties that organizes the feminist movement, which actually responsible for the well-beings as well as the morally attitude, as well as the morally attitude as well as the living principles of how the females in the current society hold. We believe that it is extremely important for the parties of the feminist movement to actually play an important part in regulating all those things, because it ultimately defines how they are going to success in pursuing a goal of achieving equality in terms of women rights. So firstly, I'm going to define what cam girls are. Cam girls are webcam models that perform in the live webcam to show in order to earn monetary gain. Actually, these webcam girls, they actually, in terms of their work, they actually commit in a free market of sexuality, whereby they earn money in terms of nudity portrayed to different but not regulated and restricted levels of societies. For example, their show can be broadcasted widely, and that can be viewed by children, they can be viewed by children, they can be viewed by adults, they can be viewed by maidens or so on that do not possess and enough maturity in order to decide what is right or wrong. So we believe that the existence of these cam girls itself is a false thing in terms of morality. So therefore, when it comes to condemning them openly, we only express complete disapproval of the job, of the occupation that they are actually committing in the sense of gaining an income. So then I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are not criticizing the person that commits this sector as their job. We are just openly criticizing the job itself as something that is being immoral, but not criticize these models who actually work as cam girls to be worse or some more insulted nicknames. So we believe that it is very important to condemn them openly in hope of changing their way of gaining their income, because we believe that by addressing this issue openly and publicly, we have a greater impact on pointing out the flaws of this sector. Why is that so? It's because society nowadays they are quite neglected of what is actually happening on the social media issue. So we believe that by addressing this issue openly, we could get consensus from those who actually support feminist movement in the public and the society as well. So we believe that this case, it would allow certain restrictions in terms of because of opinions of how society views this work, and it's going to be an obstruction for them to keep on going on in committing this job, because we know that it's very important to point out that how we are wrong, and it's extremely important for us to also make sure that this is wrong. You're going to teach somebody badly. You're going to influence somebody and they're going to make other people to view sexuality as a normal thing, and we believe that it is extremely important for this feminist movement to make sure that this kind of thing won't happen in terms of female members of the society. So,
Question.
yeah, yes.
Are you okay with pornography?
Of course, pornography is certain things that should be addressed. It's quite an open thing that can be addressed by different members of the society. But however, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm quite trying to say that pornography is quite explicit and is determined as illegal in certain countries. So we believe that the webcam, in the context of webcam itself, is quite different from pornography. So it's important for the feminist movement to actually constrict this nudity in order to make a check and balance onto certain into a certain extent that the morality of the society is being regulated. So and therefore I end my case. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Prime Minister.
I'm not here to say that a cam girl can be related to a porn star, even though we don't see much difference. But I'm here to also say that a porn star and this cam girl and a celebrity and a politician are all women who want to do what they want. In today's inside opening opposition, we are going to argue one simple thing, going to prove to you one simple thing, and at the end of the day, what we are trying to prove here and how not condemning these cam girls is actually in line with the feminist movements, and at the end of the day, empowers the feminist movement and empowers women as a whole. And if we prove this, we win today's debate. But firstly, a few rebuttals that don't fit in, because if they want to, the entire open government case was claiming the fact that okay, we are not going to condemn these individuals, but we're going to condemn what they do. That's basically like saying okay, we're going to condemn burglary, but we're not going to condemn these people. Then why do you still put them in jail? The very fact when you tell society okay, what this person is doing as a job is wrong, but they are not wrong, that is principally inconsistent. Because what we need to understand is even no matter how hard you try to portray the society, these are really great individuals, and we're not trying to say that they're horrible people, they're not horrible women, but what they're doing, the act is horrible. What you need to understand is what society perceives at the end of the day. Because when as the motion says, when you openly condemn cam girls, you're basically telling the entire world that these cam girls are, not doing the right thing, that what women should be doing. And this is highly in contradiction with feminist movement, which I'll explain later on. But secondly, when they talk about regulating morality, and this is the biggest problem in the entire case, because when they want to set a standard to what morality is, then it dates back to the 1950s and women shouldn't be allowed to vote. The minute you set a standard to what morality is, you're basically setting a standard to what women are allowed to do. And I'm going to expound more on how this is not in line with the feminist movement. Enough with side opening government in the irrelevant case. Firstly, when we're talking about the feminist movement here, I'm going to talk to you about the 4 benefits and how we actually characterize the feminist movement. Because we believe that the feminist movement, in the best spirit of the movement, should always be fight for women to freely express themselves any way, in any possible way they want to. Now, the 4 benefits of how we actually pursue this by not condemning scam girls is firstly, we're not setting a standard to how much women can reveal or be open about themselves. Now, why is this problematic? Because to some people, a Vanity Fair can be condemned as something that's really disgusting or stuff like that. And finally, highly problematic, because we've seen how so many societies have changed. So some societies believe that okay, wearing long pants is something that's bad, wearing short pants something is bad, or not wearing anything at all is bad. So the problem is that we do not want there to be any standard to what women should be following in terms of what they want to reveal themselves, they want to reveal their body or what they want to pursue in life. There should not be any standard whatsoever. Now, why is this beneficial? Because what we at the end of the day want to pursue is giving the avenue for women to do whatever they want without being judged. Because what we need to understand is the mindset which they fail to characterize cam girls who actually want or actually opt into
becoming this as a viable job. Now we need to understand the mindset of this camp girl, because they like invest so much in themselves. We have to understand like how a woman or any other individual invests in their education, invests in something that they want to pursue as a job, as a source of income. These women have gone through so much to invest in themselves, to invest in this industry, to actually like, you know, bring themselves up to different levels, you know, so that they can actually like, you know, gain more money and stuff like that. What you are not taking into account is the fact that women all around the country who like opt into these camp girls want to do it for themselves. Now, what is the harm in doing this? It's because now you are opening like the avenue for these anti-feminism groups to actually judge and actually brand this woman. So when you, at the minute you actually come up and say, okay, so what this woman is doing is wrong because it's morally wrong, you're branding them like to open words such as like sluts and, you know, hoes and all this stuff. And this is highly problematic, because what we want to fight for is for women to actually do whatever they want without being judged, and this can only be achieved when we do not openly condemn women who want to like express themselves freely to the fact that, okay, me seeing too much skin of a woman is morally wrong. This is something we find shameful and that we will not stand for in the feminist movement. But yes, closing.
Will the feminist movement also be okay that these camp girls only feel empowered by the fact that due to internalized misogyny?
Look, listen here, okay? We understand that there's many forms of like, people will still judge them like however they want. But when the feminist movement openly comes up and says there is something objectively wrong, there's a big difference with people who are going to like call them sluts, whatever and whatsoever. But this, how it actually empowers women is when the feminist movement actually supports their right to actually openly come out in a camp. Then they can tell these people, you do not understand what a woman actually stands for. You don't understand how a woman should be actually free to do whatever she wants. There's a difference when like a random individual calls her a slut, and when the entire like feminism community brands whatever she's doing as something that's shameful and slutful. This gives the avenue for anti-feminism like groups to actually come and tackle even more. But secondly, how this actually affects the source of income, because what we need to understand is what these women represent and what they stand for. They represent the few people that are actually brave enough to go against what society deems as something that's shameful. We are sadly to regret that the traditional way of looking at things are, okay, if you show too much skin, you're branded as not what women should be doing. These are the women at the forefront of like the empowerment movement that actually carry the face in this particular fight. Now, what happens when you actually deem these people as, you know, like, I don't know, criminals or like condemn them? What happens is you're actually destroying the entire feminism like movement and what they fought for before as a whole. Because what you are carrying out here is the inconsistency in the feminist movement. Because we have to understand that feminist movement fights for so many different departments, like women in the business industry, women in politics, and also their freedom of expression on social media. So when you condemn one part of the feminist movement, the entire part, the entire tail of whatever the feminist movement have fought for now becomes like open for all these anti-feminism movements to actually tackle, and then that actually like decreases the strength for women to actually fight back. But what we need to understand at the end of the day is what we actually displacing and doing towards these women. We have to understand that these women have put so much of effort, time, and all their money into actually like building themselves up as individuals for this to become a camp girl for a source of income. It is not easy. Society thinks that these girls are just doing it for the sake of getting publicity. Many of them are doing it for like the sake of actually having a job to make ends meet. What you are actually doing, actually putting this like these individuals totally disenfranchising them for the entire like source of economy. And what we need to understand, it is so much more difficult for these women to bounce back into whatever you deem is right for a woman to work as, when they've invested so much of the time in this. Side opening government is very clear in what we want. The side opening option is very clear what we want. We want women to be able to express themselves freely without being judged, without being a standard for what women should follow, and for them to actually use this as a source of income, because we find that nothing wrong with the women expressing herself. For all those reasons, I beg to oppose.
Ladies and gentlemen, we strongly agree that women should express themselves freely. But we tell you that on our side of the house, we say that there are certain degrees to how freely you can express yourself, especially on social media. Now, to answer the POI of the first speaker towards my partner about whether do we agree, whether are we fine with pornography or not, is that to answer the pornography part is that pornography only appears when a certain individual actually finds that website to only find pornography. But the only reason why cam girls are different from pet pornography is that cam girls appear on social media where it's broadcasted publicly, where all these people are able to like watch these people perform their watch these certain individuals which are cam girls to like show their nudity and so on and so forth. So this is where we tell you cam girls and pornography are two separate things. Now, in my speech, I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be providing 3 substantives and also a few rebuttals regarding opening opposition. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have let's talk about the substantives first. Number 1, how is it, ladies and gentlemen, that these cam girls broadcasting in social media affects the image of the feminist movement? Now, ladies and gentlemen, because now the first level of elaboration is that cam girls since these cam girls are showing off their body and their nudity, showing skin in the internet, which we tell you is harmful, because people who watch these broadcasts think that because people who watch this because people who watch these broadcasts are usually children or adults, basically the public who watch this stuff are actually is very harmful towards these people, especially when it's broadcasted to inappropriate age of individuals such as children. Now, this is where we tell you, ladies and gentlemen, why is it that affecting the image of the how does it affect the image of the feminist movement? Is that when these people watch these cam girls perform in social media, the problem here is that these viewers who think that sit down please. These viewers who actually watch these cam girls perform in social media, they will actually, in a sense, think that these cam girls actually portray feminism, this feminist movement. Yes.
You see, candles are also available on websites where it's restricted, like you say. So are you also against candles on 18+ websites? Because the concept is you're against candles on social media where it's widely broadcasted.
Now, no, the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, cam girls usually are like they usually perform their nudity and stuff live in social media, while pornography, ladies and gentlemen, is usually like a film or something where it's already recorded, but it's already posted in a website where it's just posted in a pornography website where you actually have to find that particular website in order to access it. While cam girls, ladies and gentlemen, we say that is a very big problem here, because it's actually being exposed to the public whether you want it or not. So these people who are suddenly searching in social media, they will actually have a chance of finding these cam girls cam girls doing their stuff in social media. This is where we tell you it is problematic. Now, where was that? Now, to continue about how it affects the image of the feminist movement is that these viewers who usually view these cam girls, they would think that these cam girls usually portray feminism, which affects the feminist movement largely, because now people see feminists as girls who are cam girls, which is basically bad. And now it makes feminist movement finding their own equality for feminists a problem. Now, why is it that openly condemning them, and by condemning them we are saying we are disapproving with that, but not like criticizing them by giving up slurs or something, like criticizing them or not. We are just disapproving, to be clear. And why is it that openly condemning them is necessary? Now, we are willing to concede, ladies and gentlemen, that there will be harms that will occur, but we believe we are willing to concede that public shame may occur. But we believe on our side. Why is it that we are willing to concede this? Is because public shame. We believe that on feminist movement, we believe that public shame is the most effective way of stopping this cam girl from doing this in social media. Now, rather in comparison, ladies and gentlemen, on their side, where they may have a chance of saying that, oh, we also don't want these cam girls to perform, but we wouldn't openly condemn them, but we rather privately tell them. Why is it that in comparison, their side wouldn't be able to persuade these cam girls to stop doing their job is that they don't see any threat or anything. So they don't so even if these people disapprove them privately, these cam girls wouldn't take into consideration their advice or their disapproval or condemn. So this is where we tell you that publicly shaming them, not to say public shame openly condemning them is the best way to go, because when these particular individuals, these cam girls, feel shame, they will eventually stop what they are doing. In this debate, ladies and gentlemen, even though we believe that women should express themselves freely, but thank you. But we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that in today's debate, it is rather crucial that we must debate on who is able to that we believe on our side. We strongly believe that these cam girls should stop what they are doing, and we are providing methods on how to stop them from continuing this sort of stuff. Now, why is it that we are condemning? Why we are particularly condemning cam girls instead of other girls like maybe prostitutes or so on and so forth? Is because, ladies and gentlemen, we notice the problem is that the only reason why you're condemning cam girls in the first place is because these cam girls are affecting the public widely by broadcasting themselves, showing their nudity life in social media, which is very problematic. So this is where we tell you, this is where we justify why cam girls. And also to rebut opening opposition. Now, the problem with opening government is that they think that these cam girls usually just show a lot of skin. But they do cover their body in a sense, so they think it's still appropriate in a sense. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, cam girls, they don't just show a lot of skin; they are basically naked in front of the live cam, where they basically show their whole body in front of the viewers. So this is where we tell you it's extremely inappropriate to be broadcasted live in social media, because these viewers will be affected, especially children of inappropriate age. Now with this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Right, thank the Deputy Prime Minister.
If you want to condemn cam girls for sexualizing their body or for expressing themselves in a way that you don't agree with, you also have to speak out and condemn prostitutes, porn stars, the Free the Nipple campaign, which is widely accepted by the feminist movement. These are the kinds of things that you also have to speak out against your side, because it's no different. You ran a very convenient debate on your side when you said, no, we'll only criticize the job, not the person who does the job. Tell me now, you criticize robbery. I mean, you criticize robbery, right? Don't you also criticize the robbers? It's the same concept. They're so principally inconsistent that it's frustrating, because it makes this debate so messy. But now, onto rebuttals and tell you why they're completely out of this debate because of how their principles are inconsistent and how they've contradicted. How they've contradicted each other, right? So first of all, our question was, why is porn any different, right? So his answer was, porn is restricted in some countries, but even in those countries that have porn, they are only on restricted websites. See, I don't get this. Cam girls also on restricted websites, right? They're not widely on social media like he wanted to say, because that's just factually incorrect and squirreling emotion making him want to look better. That's not the fact in the real world. The fact in the real world is, it works the same way that porn does. You have to go to the website, you have to agree with the fact that you're 18 and above, you sometimes have to create an account, and all these things, right? All these countermeasures to making sure that young kids don't view this content. So his point on how it's wrong because people can widely watch it, they widely watch a girl masturbating, that's wrong. That's factually incorrect, and that is why the entire case falls, right? But next, they wanted to talk about how it's different from porn and how it's different from prostitution. That's the easy way of running this debate. The debate that has to happen is that they concede that it's the same as porn, it is the same as prostitutes, it's the same as all those other ways that women get money by expressing themselves in any way they want. They had to concede that from the get-go. So, next,
VPY on how are they okay with candles on 18 plus websites, and all they said to this was no, it's different on 18 plus websites because they have restrictions. See, I don't understand. That is status quo right now, right? Candles are only on 18 plus websites. I've not seen a part of Facebook where they widely advertise candles masturbating themselves, right? That's not true at all. I've never seen videos like that on Facebook. That's why their point on how it's social media is wrong. And this is why their entire case falls, right? Because their argument is contingent on the fact that candles are on social media, therefore it's wrong. But status quo clearly proves that candles are only available on 18 plus websites. I've dealt with their case and they're very problematic arguments. Next, on our point, on how this condemnation prevents women from excelling in the entertainment industry. So let me explain to you the flow on which you condemn women who are candles, right? First of all, you condemn women. The feminist movement especially condemns women. And now less women want to do it because they're afraid of that condemnation. They're afraid of that backlash, which means there's less representation of women in the entertainment industry. Now, women in general don't want to be involved in the entertainment industry because they think they need like an assurance, they need permission from the feminist movement to pursue what they want to pursue. They need permission from the feminist movement to be in the entertainment industry, to express themselves. See, that's not the case. The fact that feminist movement is okay with women expressing themselves in politics, expressing themselves in business or in positions of power, you also have to, the feminist movement also has to be in line with their principles and not condemn the girls, these scandals, prostitutes or porn stars, because it's no different. It's still freedom of expression. You can't change that. Now, what kind of harms will this cause? Firstly, it goes against the principles of the feminist movement, thus harming the feminist movement in general, and it also harms women in general. First of all, you legitimize the usage of the word slut and whore that the anti-feminist movement use against prostitutes, use against candles, right? So by the feminist movement saying, okay, we condemn you doing this, that means you automatically legitimize what all those anti-feminist movements say, that people who do, that candles who participate in porn, who would participate in the scam shows are wrong. That means you're basically, the feminist movement is basically going against its own gender, against its own movement by saying they don't agree with it. Next, women are afraid to venture in different fields because they think they need approval from the feminist movement, right? That means you have less women being even in positions of power in some cases because they're afraid of what the feminist movement will think. And we think that's extremely problematic, right? But moreover, why it completely harms the feminist movement? Because now you give the narrative that the feminist movement only fights for women in politics, only fights for women in position of power, only fights for business women. That's not the narrative that the feminist movement should send out. The feminist movement has the main principle of the feminist movement is that women have the freedom to express themselves in any way they want to, right? Which means even if it's porn, even if it's business, even if it's political, even if it's like candle shows, you still have to be in line with it because you want to fight for the freedom of expression. You can't cherry pick like what you want to what you want to condemn and what you don't want to condemn, because then people will then question the legitimacy of the feminist movement as a whole. Is the feminist movement a viable platform to for women to express themselves? Are they actually fighting for women? Are they actually fighting for all women? We see, you don't want society asking these questions, because then that undermines the progress of the feminist movement all these years. Like when they fought for the right to vote, when they fought for the right for women to get equal pay in workplaces, you completely undermine all these things that the feminist movement have done when you don't support when you don't support women as a whole. So what's the comparative in this debate? So on our side, we tell you, we give women the right to express themselves. We tell you women are as equal as men and that they can express themselves in any way they want to, be it sexually, be it in business, be it politically. They want to tell you that they'll only cherry pick some things that they want to approve of, right? That the feminist movement should approve of, and that they'll condemn the rest that sexualizes their body and stuff like that. You see, you can't cherry pick. Because as a feminist movement, as any social rights movement, right? Like for example, the Black Lives Matter can't say they only fight for legit black people and not like the people who are light skins and other kinds of black people. If the Black Lives Matter say they want to fight for black people, they have to fight for all black people. It doesn't matter their background, their occupation. They can't only say they want to fight for the oppressed. They also have to fight for the non-oppressed. as a social rights movement, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot cherry pick who you want to fight for. You want to fight for a certain group, a marginalized group, you have to fight for all of them. And this is why they're completely out of this debate. First of all, the mistake in characterization where they assume candles only exist on social media. And next, when they go against their own line of principles where they say the feminist movement should only approve of things that don't sexualize the body and political things and stuff like that. That doesn't make sense. We take this debate because we fight for women as a whole.
I think the problem in this debate, regarding this debate, coming from both sides, is that both sides fail to recognize that there's a school that feminism isn't a unilateral organization of women movement. Rather, it's a disparate groups of people that have different thoughts on what is supposed to be feminism and what is not supposed to be feminism. What opening opposition say regarding that? Glorifying women working as candles is being inherently empowering to women can also be offensive to certain types of feminists that also don't agree with this. And that's what we're going to talk about in my speech, in my extension. And then I'll be talking about why a culture of hypersexuality should not exactly be normalized within today's society. Then I'll talk about, and then I'll examine the stakeholders, in this case, the candles and the men who watch these candles in the first place. So first, regarding why a culture of hypersexuality should not be normalized in the first place is because this. When you have a society whereby patriarchy is still reigning supreme within that society, internalized misogyny becomes much more stronger within society. And this means that candles who are working as basically sex objects for these men become more submissive to the patriarchy, and also they internalize the misogyny, the idea that they should be looking for the approval of men so that they can feel self-esteem, so that they can be successful, so that they feel empowered. And this kind of empowerment is a fake kind of empowerment, Mr. Panel. Why? Because the kind of empowerment that these candles are looking for is, in the first place, is that you're looking at a man and you're looking for his approval. That's a fake form of empowerment. A true form of empowerment doesn't rely on another person being in that equation. You can just be your own person and also have some form of empowerment that's stronger and unique to you. No thank you, later. What's worse is that when it comes to candles, there's already a problem whereby when you're looking for empowerment in that situation, there's also a power disparity between the person as a candle and the men that are watching you. Why is there a disparity? The problem because why there's a disparity is that when the men watch the candles, they can donate tokens or coins or whatever to give those to those women as some form of value, and those women will actually do the instructions on whatever the man picked them to do for. And that's the problem. These women are not exactly being empowered. They're basically machines to these men in their perceptions. Now, this leads on to my second, no thank you, later. This leads on to my second extension, which is how men feel in this situation and what their perception of these candles are. So when they watch these candles performing all their actions that they ask them to do, what they feel is this, that since candles are following their orders, then the idea of and the perception of a woman doing whatever they want to do becomes much more normalized to them. And this, no thank you, later. And this further perpetuates patriarchy, where men reign supreme over women, because they feel that since women are controllable, whether it may be by donating them some tokens and they'll do whatever the men ask them to do, that's something that's further perpetuating the patriarchy that the feminist movement in the first place is trying to take down. Now, so why do these women get paid actually in the first place? Why do these men actually want to pay these women to do these sex acts or any kind of masturbation that side opening opposition seems to be talking a lot? So why do they do this? First is this: they want to get money. Women obviously, when they work as a cam girl, they want to earn an income. And true, it may be earning that income may be good for them, but the problem is this: when you look at the entire level of society, whereby the actions of these women change the perceptions of their male fans, whereby they create an idea of a toxic sexuality, whereby women are seen as more of sex objects and submissive things that men can order around. That's the problem where it lies, Mr. Panel, because the problem is that women are not exactly things that you can be ordered around. They are a living person that have their own thoughts and minds, not a machine that you can just simply donate a token to and ask them to do whatever you want. And that's the problem also. When this kind of women, when women feel like this kind of attention is needed for them to be hypersexualized, for men to feel like they need male approval to actually become, to become popular or something. That's the problem where it normalizes the idea that women should be, at least in some ways, submissive to men, especially when it comes to income. So what's the outcome of this? Wait a second. What's the outcome of this? Men have it ingrained within their minds and in their perceptions that women are sex objects to be paid for, not people who that they can just talk to, not people who they can feel like these women actually have a thought. Why am I not talking specifically regarding understanding why they do this in the first place? It hurts these men because the idea of women as a way for them to just sexually titillate themselves becomes very commonplace, and that further hurts the place of women within society when they're seen as more and more of a sex object. Yes, I'll take one of them.
If you are saying that the status quo is that men are never a sex object, and you buying whatever they are saying is only going to prove that. But secondly, when you say that all things that women do are form of them empowerment, how is that actually increasing the avenue for them to keep venturing with that?
Like I said, fake empowerment is not exactly true empowerment. There's always going to be a power disparity between both of you. So you're not going to exactly have the truest form of empowerment where you can reach through other avenues. And another thing is regarding women feeling that they're becoming more powerful within society is also not true, because they're also relying on male approval in the first place to actually become that empowered, and it's simply not true. Now, going on. So how does a cam girl actually feel when she does this? She feels that she has an obligation to do whatever her audience tells her to. And this is also plays into her internalized misogyny that whatever the man asks, as long as they pay, they'll do it. They don't care for how far the sexual act takes them. They don't care how far they are becoming more sexualized when they're being made as a sex object in the minds of the male fans. That's the problem. The outcome of this is only this. When you create a culture of hypersexuality within society, what happens is that it seeps into your life. Things such as harassment becomes normalized, and women might even feel that they want it because they feel like this internalized misogyny that's brewing in them, and they don't understand it. They feel that the harassment they receive, any kind of sexual harassment, is justified, and they approve it. And we think that's entirely wrong and unacceptable within society to accept. And with that, I am proud to propose.
Here.
Right, like the member of government, I do the member of
I think the major question that government fails to answer in today's debate is why is it the obligation of a feminist movement to make an objective decision, to make an objective labelization that being the job of a cam girl is seen as immoral? That question hasn't been answered by both the houses of the government bench. Because recognize when they fail to answer this question, there are other arguments about how it's not empowering towards the feminism, or like how it's harmful towards society's eyes, cannot materialize because they first cannot prove how is it immoral to begin with. Because if they say it's immoral because it's sexually, you depict yourself as sexually like an object, for example, you reveal your body in something that's inappropriate. It will also define how certain examples like prostitution or things like commodifying transgenders as sexy within like tourism campaigns are also not effective and also something that should be regretted by feminist movements. Until they prove that, they cannot take today's debate. I'm going to answer two questions in my speech. The first is our extension, which I'm going to tell you how the job of a cam girl can ensure instant gratification. But the second question, which I'm going to prove, is how closing opposition specifically can ensure a more inclusive feminist movement. But before that, two issues of responses to the speaker before me. The first is that they say that women will be looked upon as sex toys and they will be looked upon as objects. The first thing they would say to that, and then also at the same breath, they argue to you that women will be looked upon as sex toys and women should also be allowed to give out their own opinions and thoughts. This is why it's contradictory, because the fact that women join cam girls and the job of a cam girls is also their only opinion. It is their decision to join cam girls. They consented towards the harms of harassment or harms of society not appreciating them, because it's their right to do what they want to do. So we should also argue that feminist movement should not make an objective decision and say there's an immoral decision for this individual to join to become a cam girl. But the second issue is that they said, should we disallow an act at the point in which they are harassed? Because the contention was, oh, society will harass them, society will objectify these women. This is what we would say. Maybe they'll be harassed, maybe they'll be objectified, but this depicts their empowerment. This depicts that they are strong enough to have a counter narrative towards the harassment that society creates. A lot of times women do this and they still seem successful to it. For example, like transgenders. Transgenders are also heavily abused by society, in terms of discrimination, but feminist movement also celebrate the idea of being a transgender, even if they're abused, and we not force them to go to therapy or convert and become straight or regular individual, because it is their right to be what they want. Even if they're harassed, it shows their empowerment. So let's move on to my extension. How the job of a cam girl can ensure instant gratification. So opening opposition proved to you on how it's empowering and how it motivates the women at the point at which they are cam girl. We're going to take you a step further and tell you how it's specifically for instant gratification, and this is especially important to note. But for that, some background, right? A lot of times, women actually join the job of cam girls as a last resort. We need to say that maybe they've given up all hopes. Maybe they're in minority. They're African children who have failed. Probably they have to climb up the privilege ladder in order to have better jobs as opposed to a privileged individual. They are already below the poverty line to begin with. So a lot of times, women who are poor and who are oppressed within society is why they take cam girls as a last resort. So maybe government can say, oh, there are successful cam girls who are rich, who are doing exceptionally well. But the first thing we would say to that is, there are a lot of these successful cam girls also started off with nothing, started out poor, and this is the job that gave them money and something they have to respect. But the second to talk about, there are a lot of cam girls are not as successful as others. Same way, in the porn industries, a lot of porn stars are not as successful as other porn stars as well. So the point is, a lot of women who join this job of cam girls started out with nothing. It started out in a very vulnerable state. Therefore, it's the role of the feminist movement to respect the choices they make in order for them to get better support for their family, for example, or to simply continue life to begin with. So it's something that we have to respect. But let's look at the second question. Before that, any questions? Yeah, okay. Second question, how does closing opposition ensure a more inclusive feminist movement? Let's look at the contention from opening opposition first. We first told you that feminist movement should support women, but that support comes at the expense of standardization. I think this is definitely harmful, because when you create a standardization, the first thing that you do is you tarnish the fight of the feminist movement. If feminist movement wants to fight for social equality, for gender equality, now that you create more standards towards having that fight as well, is totally harmful, because if a movement is designed to cater for social change and to cater for curbing misogynist narratives or to curbing patriarchy, then why should it be an obligation of feminist movement to pick and choose the sort of followers that you want, or to pick and choose the sort of people that you want in your movement? But the second thing is that it dilutes the fight. That means that if you want to fight for social equality, now the fight transitions into having women that are fit to be feminists, for example, or fit to be part of what feminists wants to fight for. This is particularly harmful because a lot of people won't be part of your fight at the point at which you pick and choose and you have standards to dictate what's best for these women. We have a more inclusive feminist movement because we say, insofar as you feel empowered by it and it doesn't harm a third party and you feel it actually benefits you as a woman and you feel strong about it, something that you should respect. Exactly why a lot of women are proud of staying in abusive relationships, even if they're abused, even if they're abused. A lot of women are proud of curbing discrimination, even if they're discriminated, because insofar as they feel empowered about it, is something that the feminist movement should respect. Opposition will lose, the side of government will lose weight. Before that, yeah, I think
what kind of empowerment are you talking about? I've already established myself that empowerment is a thing within candidates.
I don't know why you should have like a one-dimensional view of what empowerment means. Empowerment can mean a lot of things for women. For maybe revealing my body may be empowering to me, or like having more views that watch me reveal my body may be empowering to me, or just the fact that me having a job will also be empowering to me. A lot of times, the metrics in which you feel empowered is differing towards women, but it's something you have to respect if they feel empowered by it. And in conclusion, we think as an outside, the guarantee that the feminist movement more inclusive, it's right, and we don't care about this and men objectify to harass, we feel that it's not as harassment, we talk a lot about it, something that we should respect.
Mr. Speaker, I think what's missing from this debate is the fact that side opposition do not realize that the feminist movement don't just speak up for like sex workers in general, they also speak up for a lot of women on the ground. Therefore, this debate should also include how, by openly condemning cam girls, will actually, or by not condemning them at all, will also affect women on the ground. Akram came up here and told you that when you don't condemn these cam girls, when you give them approval, it will open gateways for society to normalize objectification to the point that women may think that sexual harassment, for example, is a form of approval, that they might like being catcalled in the streets, and this is going to be harmful for women on the ground. Therefore, we believe that it's very important for this feminist movement to openly condemn these cam girls. Furthermore, right, a few things that don't fit into my issues. Now, side opposition came up here and told you that they want to have a feminist movement that is inclusive in nature, but they fail to realize that there are a lot of different school of thoughts in the feminist movement in and of itself, right? That's how the feminist movement diversify its discourse within the umbrella of feminist movement itself. They told you that being a cam girl, they told you that when you condemn cam girls, it's going to legitimize all the anti-feminism rhetorics that feminism have been receiving for all this while, right? We have to know that there are different school of thoughts in feminism that have different opinions already on sex workers, prostitutes, etc. The thing that they have in common is that they stand in solidarity with all women, but they may have differing opinions on a lot of other things. This is why we have things like different types of feminism. This is why we have things like intersectional feminism in the first place, right? This is how feminism becomes inclusive, and this exists on our side because we realize that feminism is not binary in nature. It doesn't exist in the vacuum, and this is how we diversify the discourse about sex workers, about cam girls, and this is how we be inclusive. We achieve that better on side closing government. Furthermore, if we still want to talk about the comparatives between cam girls and porn stars and prostitutes, right? Here's the thing. We openly condemn cam girls because they are more visible as compared to like prostitutes or as compared to porn stars in general. Why? Because they have a large target audience, unlike prostitution. This large target audience also apply to porn stars. This is how it's different. When you become a porn star, All the sexual acts that you do are part of acting. But when you become a cam girl, it involves real life interaction. It involves receiving orders to live cam chats from male who view your webcam video, right? And also there's number two, there's also a disparity of power when you become a cam girl. You are putting yourself in a submissive position as opposed to your male viewers who give you orders, who ask you to do sexual acts in front of the camera. Through live cam chat, and you also profit from male sexuality. Our extension from closing government is simple. How do cam girls defy everything the feminist movement stood for, and why is it bad, and why do we need to openly condemn it? Number one, Akram told you that it promotes hypersexuality and a false sense of empowerment to these women. Now, the feminist movement, yes, it's all about a lot of feminist movement, it's all about women being comfortable in their own bodies, right? But that is not the case with cam girls. Let's see how this affects women on the ground. It will send a message that this is what being comfortable in your own body means. Being comfortable with your own skin is being able to capitalize on your body, being able to make money out of it, being able to perform sexual acts on yourself and get men to pay you. This is how you're going to feel empowered as a woman. That's the message that we're sending if we don't openly condemn these cam girls. It also sends a message that if you have the guts to perform sexual acts for all to see, that is how you will receive validation from men, and that is how you become comfortable in your own body, and you will receive all the male approval that you need. We also take note that both sides from opposition did not tell you on how hypersexuality, or by not condemning these cam girls, will affect women on the ground. They told you that as long as these women feel empowered, then the feminist movement should just be happy about it, should just support it, even though it's a false sense of empowerment. We think that this is a very horrible line of thinking, because it will invalidate all the effort the feminist movement have done in order to make women be more progressive in today's society. All the effort in making sure women don't stay in abusive relationships, in making sure women don't be submissive towards guys that are toxic to them, is going to be invalidated, and we think that it's already harmful and principally not aligned with the feminist movement in the second place. Secondly, it is not aligned with the feminist movement because it normalizes objectification, right? Harassment will become a normalized thing and it will become accepted. When you allow hypersexuality to be a thing in society, women will seek approval from men, then being wanted is equated to being empowered, and they will be seen as a commodity by men. This will also give more corporate incentives to these porn companies, for example, to make more cam girls follow more extreme orders that is going to hurt them in the future, for example. In the long run, in their world, they're going to perpetuate the problem of cam girls having to follow like extreme orders like fetishization of violence, for example, and this is going to be harmful for them in the future. Thirdly, it is against the feminist principle because it capitalizes on male sexuality, on and misogyny in order to make money, right? These cam girls are profiting off of being submissive, taking orders from men on live cam chat. The ability for them to work is heavily contingent on the fact, on their ability to service their male viewers, on their ability to service men, right? Furthermore, your ability to go further in your career as a cam girl will also heavily rely on how sexual you can be on live camera, and on how good are you at taking orders from your male viewers. And this is something that we see as strong because number one, you are capitalizing on male sexuality, and it's not principally not aligned with feminism in general. In our world, we think that male allies to the feminist movement will have less reason to work with the feminist movement, and there are more reasons for the anti-feminist movement to antagonize feminist movement even more and call out feminist movement as being not principally aligned with their principles in the first place. For all these reasons, very proud.
Feminist movements on status quo is not only to actually give representation or equal representation for individuals on jobs, but in terms of actually making individuals feel more empowered of what they do and not taking orders, but actually consenting to certain things that they do within like things like pornography and also like these cam girls, what they do do it in their consent. We think that that's the debate as a whole. We think that these individuals want total empowerment, and that's what the feminism movement is all about. Certain issues we'll attend to from closing government. First issue, who actually diversifies feminism and what is actually the role of feminism under current status quo? But secondly, why are cam girls inherently good, and why should status quo or feminist movements under status quo should not condemn these acts? But third, what is the world in opposition, and why should we go with the world that is in opposition? But why? Lastly, why is instant gratification better, and why total empowerment is upholded better from opposition? Right. Firstly, upon the whole issue of who actually fulfills the role or the principles of feminism, right? Specifically, feminism is not to actually give equal representation for like genders and also like women and men, but it's also to actually make individuals have freedom of expression and also allowing them to actually do what they want and however they want to do so. So instead of opposition, we don't think that we dilute the whole idea of freedom of expression, because we actually allow these candles to actually represent themselves within these actions that they do, right? They aren't forced upon like this whole idea of patriarchy, what closing government was trying to uphold. We don't think that's actually applicable, because these individuals aren't forced to do these things, but they actually consent to do so because they want some sort of revenue, right? We think that when they consent to it, they aren't actually forced to do these things, but they actually consent to this matter. That's what the debate is all about. It's not forcing, but it's actually having equal representation for women. At the moment of where individuals actually does consent to like exposing their body within like these media or social media, we think that that's at the moment of where these individuals have total empowerment, because they not only, number one, tell people how they feel about themselves and whatever they want, but number two, they also actually allow individuals to perceive women as free individuals and not individuals who have to follow certain rules and regulations, right? We think that that's what the feminist movement is all about. So we think that instead of government, you actually dilute the whole idea of feminists being free, because not only, number one, you allow anti-feminist movements to actually condemn these acts, but also, number two, you actually tell women what to do. Even worse, because you now tell them they can't do these things because it does not fulfill any certain moral high grounds. Right? We don't think that any specific feminist should actually fulfill any moral principle, as long as you actually give equal representation and also expression for these women. Therefore, it fulfills the principle of women representation as a whole. Second issue, is candles that bad, or is candles something that should be condemned in status quo? We think that, number one, we can see that it is inherently the same as pornography, where men get to use women as a whole, but we think that because women do consent to this matter, and where individuals like women actually does have equal representation and also gets to express themselves within social media and tell people about how they feel, that's at the point of where these things like candles and also pornography is inherently not bad. Even if to some extent it does actually relate to sexual usage, we don't think that that actually fights the feminist principles. That's why feminist movements on drugs actively participate in like supporting things like pornography, because they know that these individuals get to express themselves and gets to like tell people how they feel and like what liberty do they have in controlling whatever they have. At the point of where these individuals are at the point of where feminism is supporting pornography, we think that candles aren't a problem. Yeah, sure, why not?
Can you tell us why we criminalize misogyny doesn't come into play when the capital doesn't work?
Okay, so there's a difference of where you force an individual and she does not do it in consent, and there's a difference of where this individual does with consent and she actually allows the individual to use the person. At the point of where they consent to this matter and they do it for the person, it's not forcing, but it's consent. We think that that's the problem that government has, and that's the whole idea that the government does not understand, that no patriarchy would happen in candles, that man does not force women to do certain things. man just actually tells these women what to do, and these women can consent to do it or not. That's the debate about. So why is instant gratification? And that's what Cohen brought up in his extension. Right? We think that instant gratification is far better in this debate. Why? Because number one, these individuals get to actually rely on these resources because it's like final resort, right? To most of extent, we think that we actually give these individuals some sort of income, right? Rather than you actually like oppressing or like you condemning these whole acts, not only will you actually make them even more oppressed because they know they don't have any forms of revenues to gain on grounds, but they actually feel more or less unaccepted by society because whatever they do is equally condemned as well. We think that instant gratification is far better, especially in closing opposition, because not only do we practically number one, we actually curb the issue of individuals not like having to express themselves and also doing things that they consent to, but number two, in the action of doing what they equally representing themselves, they actually get some sort of revenue. So what's the practical debate, or what do you get at the end of the debate from side of government and opposition? For side of government, you only protect society from certain damages that happens. We think that's the only best case that government does have. But as it goes to opposition, we think that our best case is where we give women actually equal representation and also the freedom for them to do whatever they want within social media or within media themselves. This is at the point of where we actually fulfill the principles that feminist movements try to uphold. But in the worst of cases, what does side of opposition do get? What does side of government do get? We think that in the worst of cases, these individuals will be empowered, or to some extent harassment will happen. But we think that instead of opposition, we think that harassment would actually be curbed far better. We think that actually in the expense of harassment, these individuals can still get representation. That's what the debate is about. The debate is not about individuals being inferior to the fact that they have harassment, but the debate is about feminist movements and why feminism should always be related to scandals. Without further ado, that I've been further to post. Thank you.